We got lots of Tesla stock news today. Let's go through everything. James says, this is the most bullish thing about Tesla FSD I think I have ever read, and I tend to agree with him. Elon's biographer, Walter Isaacson, just released a new excerpt from his new book about Elon, and we learned some new stuff. Tesla's AI-based self-driving software took 4 months to go from test ready to being capable of replacing Tesla's current approach. They did this with 1/20th of the compute power they expect to have by the end of next year. This is not well understood. What do you think is going to happen once they have all of this extra compute power? And keep in mind that Tesla currently is mostly compute restrained. So this is absolutely a huge deal. It's a long excerpt, so I'm gonna come back to this later. We got a lot of Tesla stock news, but we need to go through first. Tesla has just increased the APR percentage for financing in the US, which basically makes it more expensive for consumers who finance Tesla vehicles. Tesla has done this multiple times this year, and it has been largely because the interest rates overall have gotten higher. Tesla also raised Model Y prices in Turkey. If you thought that inflation in the US was bad, well, check out Turkey. It was 64% earlier, and as you can see, it has come down all the way to 48%. This chart is a bit misleading. I hate it when they don't start these charts at 0 because it's so easy to get tricked then if you don't pay close attention to the actual numbers. So this huge price increase of over 40% in Turkey is likely mostly inflation related and not demand related. Yesterday, the first shipment of Tesla Model 3 Highlands destined for Europe were spotted in China, and Troy calculated there is enough time for these Model 3s to arrive in Europe before the quarter ends. He says, I checked the shipping times and the last 5 ships took 30, 35, 27, 35, and 28 days. Therefore, it seems too late for Q3. It seems Tesla is gearing up for a strong Q4. In the Q3 earnings call in mid-October, they will probably explain that a lot of cars were in transit at the end of Q3, but they are delivered in Q4. I would also expect Tesla to reiterate the 1.8 million delivery target. This is how I'm feeling about Q4. Alright, it is officially confirmed that the backup drive mode selector is in the overhead console of the new Model 3 between the sun visors. This is where the rearview mirror would be, and it automatically activates then the car detects the main touchscreen isn't working. Tesla Rally reports that the Tesla Semi is heading to the North American Council for Freight Efficiencies 3-week-long assessment for electric vehicle fleets. While there will be 21 commercial EVs at the event, the Semi seems to be the highlight of the entire event. New data here, local Tesla sales from Giga Shanghai in China are split between 13,500 Model 3s and 51,000 Model Ys. There are no Highland deliveries yet in China. Comparing this to previous second quarter months, which would be May and February, this number is very impressive. Also, see how few Model 3s there were? If Tesla had enough Model 3s, this would have been perhaps the best month ever so far. And it's not the end of the quarter. I know supposedly China's economy right now is collapsing, but this tells otherwise. Or it could also possibly say that Tesla is just doing so well that people have no choice but to buy a Tesla because the value proposition is just too good. We got some Giga Mexico news, and it's good news. Hopefully they are allowed to get started building the new Gigafactory soon because Tesla just got a license to use treated wastewater during EV production. It will also provide technology to drill wells around the Gigafactory, which are scheduled to be built to relieve water stress. James seriously surprised me with this take. I know I'm going to get hate for this, don't shoot the opinionated messenger, but I don't view this news as particularly bullish. This is about Elon Musk deciding to change the initial build location for the next generation Tesla cars and robotaxis from Mexico to Austin. To me, the news was quite bullish actually in the long term, but he explains his take. He gives his bullish side as well. He says the compact vehicle may be delivered earlier now, but his bearish take on this would be that this was last-second strategic decision-making, which suggests poor planning and contingencies in place. These conversations should have happened in 2021. Now, James does have a point here, but to me, what this actually signals is that earlier perhaps Elon Musk was not as committed to Tesla. And by that, I need to be very specific. I mean, perhaps he did not want to be super directly involved with the design of the manufacturing line, because if you put that line in Mexico, then you know Elon Musk himself will not be all that involved himself directly. Also, the following is Elon's thought process as highlighted by Walter Isaacson, who wrote the biography about Elon, about why the decision was made to move from Mexico to Austin. How many engineers do you think from Tesla really are looking forward to moving to Mexico and putting their kids through school in Mexico? How many of them do you think are looking forward to that? And sure, they are probably likely to move anywhere almost in the US if they need to relocate, but going to Mexico, I mean, there are some problems in Mexico. We're not going to go into all the cartels and everything, but it's nothing like living in the US. But most importantly, because the new line will be in Austin, it means Elon Musk himself will be very directly involved with the whole design. And if there will be any production issues, he will be on everyone's butts. And while I do see the take and the point that James has here that supposedly this is somewhat poor planning, I say also that this, in a way, shows that Elon Musk is willing to change his mind when it's really needed, and then he sees that, yeah, this will be better. Which is unlike some other companies who have been extremely stubborn with the EV transition. But most importantly, by doing this, he's creating more work for himself, really. If Elon Musk didn't really want to focus on Tesla anymore, I think it would have made a lot more sense, perhaps, to just build the whole thing in Mexico, just have the engineers in Texas figure it out, and then send the blueprints to Mexico and have them do it. It will be cheaper to do it like that in the short to medium term, but in the long term, maybe not. Because if you have the world's best engineer also paying very close attention to the whole thing, it is worth the price to have the line in Texas, and perhaps that's going to be a little bit more expensive, at least initially, and maybe in the medium term as well. But in the long term, because there will be a lot more good efficiencies built into the whole system, because Elon Musk will be working on the whole line himself as well, you know, the result is going to be really good in the end. So to me, overall, this is good news because it signals that Elon Musk is perhaps more committed to Tesla now than before. James continues and says that Mexico being delayed to 2026 is now almost a certainty, and with that I mostly agree. Then he also has concerns about growth prospects of the Model 3 and Y without really hurting gross margins. I'm not exactly sure how this is related specifically to the next generation vehicle being built in Mexico, but let's say it's related because it's important to get it out sooner than later. Well, in that case, we are getting it sooner than later because it will be built in Texas. Maybe in Texas it will be a little bit more expensive to build initially, but Giga Mexico is still coming. And then James says there's indirect admission that full self-driving is far from ready. If it's specifically because it is not going to be built in Mexico, I would make the opposite point, because if you are building in Mexico, you are doing so because you want to save money. It's not necessarily because of speed, because if it's about speed, you can build in Texas. So if anything, I would argue that the opposite is true, because Tesla will be building in Austin. Probably it will be more expensive, but it will be done faster. So why would you want to get it done faster? Well, one of the reasons would be because you just got more bullish about full self-driving. We got some new details about Tesla's newest product, Powerwall 3, which is a substantial evolution from Powerwall 2, says Bradford. The Powerwall 3 is 5 inches shorter and 25% slimmer than the Powerwall 2. It also weighs about 100 pounds less, about 50 kilograms less. This makes it easier to install and transport. Okay, so there is some conflicting information going around right now. Electric reported that overall the size is smaller, so that checks out, but it is an inch thicker. So not slimmer, but thicker. All right, I also found the official document from Tesla about Powerwall 2, which weighs 114 kilograms. Remember that? And this is Drive Tesla Canada, which I find to be a pretty good source of good facts. I think they do a good job with facts. And the new Powerwall 3 is actually a little bit heavier. If you look at this picture right here, the new Powerwall weighs 130 kilograms. It's actually a bit heavier. I also found this website, which at first seemed legit, and they had all the specs listed and everything, and they had all of this information here as well. They even list a whole bunch of sources, so you would think the information would be accurate. And they talk about the Powerwall 3 being 5 inches smaller and roughly 25% slimmer than the Powerwall 2, which is exactly the language that Bradford used. But based on the information that they themselves list on their website, they say that the Powerwall 3 is actually thicker and not thinner. So this website, not a good website. So any information you see about the Powerwall 3 right now, make sure to double check it and triple check it to make sure it's coming from the initial original source. We got an unofficial Model Y refresh concept video. This is likely exactly pretty much what it is going to look like. Looks pretty good to me. What do you think? This seems to be largely accurate about the new Powerwall. One big difference is that the new Powerwall will be able to provide you with more power all at once, even though the energy capacity is basically the same, but you will be able to draw more power out of it. So instead of having to have, let's say, 2 Powerwalls now, maybe you will only need to have 1. Stephen Mark Ryan just commented on this post, and he made a prediction. This basically shows the best-selling EVs in the world. Tesla occupies the first 2 spots, then BYD the next 2 spots, and then there's this Wuling mini EV. Steven says that if you produce one category killer per category, you will win. Model Y is outselling the number 3, number 4, and number 5 combined. Model 3 is almost outselling number 4 plus number 5 combined. And number 2, the future of the global vehicle market is Tesla number 1. And then Chinese EV makers will occupy positions number 2 all the way to number 10. Also worth noting that the Wuling Mini is a death machine on wheels and costs about as much as a night with a high-end Escort. There's a market for super cheap, low-range, extremely unsafe vehicles, and Tesla won't make them, ever. I did not know Tesla does this. See this vehicle right here? Tesla recognizes that it is actually a police vehicle. That's cool. This will be useful later, because if Tesla can recognize that these emergency lights are on, then it knows, okay, I need to get out of the way and let this emergency vehicle pass me. If you want someone to buy a Tesla, maybe show them this. This guy will probably be a customer of Tesla for the rest of his life. After all, Tesla saved his life. He was hit head-on at 55 miles an hour by a drunk driver. The roof of the Model 3 and Y can withstand 4 times its own body weight, and this is a real-world test. This looks terrible, but the roof seems intact pretty much for the most part. There's also another car here. Some said, I think, that this is possibly a Model 3. If you know for sure, then leave a comment down below. Gary Black just updated his catalyst list, and he still has full self-driving OEM licensing deal set for Q4. He's not taking it out. He also predicts that Tesla will grow its deliveries next year by a little bit over 50%, and the street is only at 26%, Wall Street. Gary Black says the street is wrong as it was in 2021. Wall Street doesn't get that new product news will ignite interest in the entire Tesla franchise in 2024, just as Model Y did in 2021. Gary continues here, no Model Y price declines are needed with all the free advertising Tesla will get from Cybertruck and the Model 3 refresh. You'll get a sneak preview of the potentially explosive social media interest next week after the Detroit Auto Show, assuming cameo appearances by Model 3 and the Cybertruck. Sawyer earlier reported that Tesla pulled out of that Detroit show. However, I did see another post of someone else saying that Someone organized the Tesla vehicle lineup basically for the show. I'm just not sure if the Cybertruck is going to be there and whether the new refresh Model 3 is also going to be there, but the Model Y will definitely be at the show. Look at how cool the Cybertruck looks at night. This is really cool. But you know what's even cooler than seeing one Cybertruck at night? I think it is seeing 2 Cybertrucks at night. That's quite a view there. Here are the latest numbers of battery electric vehicle adoption in Europe. The growth is quite impressive when comparing this year to the previous year. Gary says, investors ask me all the time why Tesla isn't my top position. The short answer is the risk of further price cuts, since Elon hasn't yet discovered the value of education-based advertising, and price cuts seem to be the lever Elon uses to clear excess inventory. Elasticity of Tesla demand to price cuts so far has proven extremely low. Tesla's 2023 Wall Street volume estimates haven't budged from the 1.8 million they started the year, despite global car sales basically being up 8% year to date. I modeled Tesla until 2033, and I expect many more price cuts actually, so these price cuts that we had this year did not surprise me, but it did surprise other investors. And yet, despite my expectations of Tesla cutting prices multiple times in the future, I'm still extremely bullish on Tesla stock. Elon was so focused on self-driving robotaxis that it took the collective effort of Tesla executives to persuade him to pursue an affordable car as well. According to biographer Walter Isaacson, the CEO only relented when his top lieutenants presented a plan to build both the next generation $25,000 car and Tesla's robotaxi side by side. Many Elon haters and skeptics think he lies about FSD timeline. The guy is clearly not lying. He's convinced this is happening, has been for years, and I think eventually Elon will be right. Mark your calendars, you definitely don't want to miss this. Lex Fridman will be interviewing Walter Isaacson, who wrote the biography of Elon Musk, which is about to be released very soon, and the interview is dropping this Sunday. You will be able to find it on YouTube. There's a new article from Walter Isaacson that was just published. Here are a few excerpts. FSD 12 was based on a radical new concept that he, Elon, believes will not only totally transform autonomous vehicles, but also be a quantum leap toward artificial general intelligence that can operate in physical real-world situations. Instead of being based on hundreds of thousands of lines of code, like all previous versions of self-driving software, this new system had taught itself how to drive by processing billions of frames of video of how humans do it, just like the new large language model chatbots train themselves to generate answers by processing billions of words of human text. Musk, who liked to manage by decreeing what metrics should be paramount, gave them their lodestar, the number of miles that cars with full self-driving were able to travel without a human intervening. I want the latest data on miles per intervention to be the starting slide at each of our meetings, he decreed. He told them to make it like a video game where they could see their score every day. Video games without a score are boring, so it will be motivating to watch each day as the miles per intervention increases. Members of the team installed massive 85-inch television monitors in their workspace that displayed in real time how many miles the FSD cars were driving on average without interventions. They put a gong near their desks, and whenever they successfully solved a problem causing an intervention, they got to bang the gong. The moment we investors are able to see the number of miles per intervention, that's when you know FSD is really close. During one of the discussions, Musk latched on to a key fact the team had discovered. The neural network did not work well until it had been trained on at least 1 million video clips. This gave Tesla a big advantage over other car and AI companies. It had a fleet of almost 2 million Teslas around the world collecting video clips every day. We are uniquely positioned to do this, said Ashok Aluswamy, who is the lead of Full Self-Driving. Here's another interesting paragraph. Musk regularly walked through the Autopilot workspace in Palo Alto and knelt next to the engineers for impromptu discussions as he studied the new human imitation approach, which is the FSD 12 basically, without any rules-based approaches in the system. As he studied the new human imitation approach, he had a question. Was it truly needed? Might it be a bit of overkill? One of his maxims was that you should never use a cruise missile to kill a fly, just use a fly swatter. Was using a neural network unnecessarily complicated? Talking about version 12. Shroff, who is one of the members of the Tesla full self-driving team, showed Musk instances where a neural network planner would work better than a rules-based approach. The demo had a road littered with trash cans, fallen traffic cones, and random debris. A car guided by the neural network planner was able to skitter around the obstacles, crossing the lane lines and breaking some rules as necessary. Here's what happens when we move from rules-based to network path-based, Shroff told Elon Musk. The car will never get into a collision if you turn this thing on, even in unstructured environments. And that's basically how Elon decided to go with what we now know as full self-driving version 12. And YouTube says you should watch this video next, but if you haven't finished watching this Elon Musk interview, watch this one first. My name is Matt. Post, like and subscribe if you haven't yet, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.